Hi, Shay Baker here. Today we're going to talk about fishing a drop shot. It's one of the best baits to fish vertically for sure, but you can also cast it out, let the bait fall, kind of pendulum in front of the boat to fish that are beneath the boat. Fish it, it's typically not something you drag, but you can drag it through some brush and that kind of thing too, if you're making little short pitches out in front of the boat. First you want to tie your leader line. So typically I'll use 15-pound suffix braided line from a main line, and then anywhere from 6 to 10-pound fluorocarbon, Seaguar and Vizex fluorocarbon I like a lot. There's also some different leader lines from Seaguar and other companies too, but then Vizex works good. And when you're fishing a drop shot, you can use several different styles of hooks. You have EWG with extra wide gap. You have just a straight shank little hook, and then you can have a little circle hook or octopus hook. There's lots of different options. You can get really, really small with a drop shot hook if you'd like, and that's what a lot of people do with smallmouth up north. Or you can fish with a fairly large hook, you know, in the 1/0 range for fishing around brush and that kind of thing. So what you want to do is you want to take your leader line and you want to go through the front of the hook first, the hook point side of the hook. So you take your line and pass it through the front of the hook, and then you want to make sure you leave yourself enough line for a tag end, a really long tag end, to where this will actually be what you attach your weight to in a minute to have a drop leader. So you go back through the front of the eye again, and now all you're doing is tying essentially a trilene knot. So then you go back through and you make you a loop. Now you're doing line twists. You can do about 5 or 6 is usually pretty sufficient depending on the line size. You may have to do a few more with lighter line. Then you finish your trilene knot, and now once you've done this, you'll have your tag end, your long tag end. You got to lubricate it to get it to go down. So now once you've tied your knot and you have your long tag end, what you'll do is you'll take your tag end now and stick it back through the front of the eye, just like you did when you were tying your knot to start with. Now your hook, you should be able to get your hook to stand out straight. And so what that does, when your hook's standing out straight, your bait's gonna stand out straight like that too, to where it looks really realistic in the water, just sitting horizontal like a shad would, or a goby or something like that. And you can nose hook your bait, where you stick your hook through the nose of the bait like that, or you can also Texas rig or weedless rig your bait using a straight shank or EWG hook, something like that. So you would actually rig the bait. I'm just going to do it here without tying the knot again. But you just take, this is a Robo Worm, Morning Dawn's classic color. You just take your hook, you run the point through the nose again, but this time you slide the nose of the bait up onto the bait keeper. And once you do that, you take the hook point, run it into the back, run it through the belly of the bait and out the back. And you can either tag it, or like with a straight shank hook, you don't have to quite take your hook point through the bait. So that's a really effective way to fish around brush, heavy cover, thicker grass. Your bait's not gonna hang up at all. So depending on the hook you selected, now you've got your hook tied on your line, you got your line going through the eye of the hook so that your bait will stand out straight. And now you're gonna take your weight and attach it. Now there's a couple of different weight styles. You have either one with a line pinch clip, or you have one with a loop. I got a bell weight I'll use for an example. I don't really use a lot of the drop shot weights with the loop or the ring, but you can actually tie a knot to the one that has the ring, or you can take your line with these line pinch ones, run it through, and then pull it up into the gap. And what that does, that really secures your weight really well. Now with a lighter pound test, really thin diameter line, you may want to use those ring weights to where you can tie it on, because a light pound test will slip through that line clip sometimes. That's it. That's essentially a drop shot. You've got your weight on the bottom, you got your bait up above. 12 to 14 inches is a good place to start with a drop shot. And you may have to go a little bit longer if you're going to have your bait, if you're going to have the fish suspending a little bit off the bottom, or if you're fishing around brush and you want your bait to kind of be up higher in the brush. But that's basically a drop shot. Just cast it out, pitch it out. You want your bait to sit there and just do that real subtle. So you don't add a lot of action with your rod. A lot of times just the water and the waves, boats running by, there'll be a little bit of action put into your bait, just holding it as still as you can. And that's really kind of what it is, a subtle deal. It's not a lot of jerking and popping, it's just a real subtle deal. But that's a drop shot.